Episode 27.
Well, we're just going to start episode 27.
Here we go.
We're live. And we had a baby.
We sure did. Well, I had a baby.
Kind of we, but Jen.
Yeah.
Jen's the one that pushed it out, and all that stuff. But
whatever. It works.
Yeah, it did work.
Yeah.
So now we have Lillian Renee, but Lily is what we call her. And she was born on Easter Day. We named her Lily a long time ago. Before we knew she would be actually born on Easter Day.
Yeah.
We actually went in the day before, which was Jackson's birthday. We literally filmed that morning.
Yeah.
And how'd you think this went?
It went really well. Yeah, it went really well. I feel great, which is I'm very thankful for. There's a lot of people out there that don't feel great after.
Yeah.
But I do. So
you look good.
Thank you. I was telling Jeff.
Your stomach's not pushing into the corner of the table.
No, I was kind of telling him right before we started. I go, the nice thing about losing my belly is that I can finally start hoarding your clothes again. So thanks for the shirt.
Yeah, you're welcome. Well, it was a fun, great thing. So
yes.
And we always have work to do. So Jen was actually uploading the podcast, so Dylan could have it in labor and delivery in the afternoon on Saturday. So,
in between contractions.
Yeah, and of course I still had to put a video out on. Saturday morning, Sunday morning.
Yeah, we made it work.
Monday afternoon, we still make it work. Mm-hmm. So we are not complaining. We feel blessed with everything we do, plus having the kids we do and family in general.
Yeah, we're very blessed.
Yeah, very much so. But you guys didn't come here to hear about our baby and how blessed we are.
No, but thank you for listening.
Yeah, thank you. We wanted to talk about mock scrapes, and we have this big old clock LCD printout thing that we can actually see it from all the way across the room, but we have it right on the table, so it's pretty obnoxious right now.
It's probably okay that it's there. I can see it better.
And we know that it's 68 degrees in here, 68.1.
That was just
But
nice.
we've always wondered when we're shooting podcasts how warm or cold it is.
Oh,
so
that's nice.
There we go. But we're going to talk about mock scrapes today, and we're going to kind of do a deep dive for this. And a lot of times they're talking about mock scrape strategy. So I'll have a mock scrape strategy, how to pattern mature bucks on mock scrapes. Where should you locate a mock scrape? How many mock scrapes should you have? How to create a mock scrape. Every strategy you can imagine when it comes to mock scrapes, put a video out for. So we just want to do a deep dive and just talk about mock scrapes in general. And we're going to do this with a lot of different habitat improvements and hunting strategies, trail cam practices, food plot practices. That's something that can carry on. So instead of just doing a strategy video, slice of the pie out of 50 of water holes, we'll talk about water holes in general.
I just thought of a really good question. So when you get to the
that is a tree. It's a tree.
Oh. Okay, scratch the question. Yeah. No, just kidding. So when you get to the how, remind me. It's a good question.
Okay.
So. Okay.
You're excited.
I don't want to forget. I kind of am. I kind of want to ask it right now.
Write that down?
No, I don't need to write it down.
Okay, let's skip ahead.
Okay.
Jen rules.
Okay.
Women rule the roost, right?
No. So, okay.
What?
So here's my question. So we've talked about water holes a lot, where to put them, where not to put them. You've had a lot of people talk recently about not putting or you've been talking recently about not putting a water hole on a food plot. Where specifically we should put those. Fast forward to mock scrapes.
Okay.
We have mock scrapes on food plots.
Yes, we do.
So what is the difference between having a mock scrape on a food plot? I'm specifically thinking about the one on the Hermit.
That's a really good question.
As opposed to having them in a stand location that's in the intimate part of the woods that have a mock scrape, and all of our stand locations have them.
Yeah.
So I guess that's my question.
A few different factors, and we're getting into the strategy now.
Sorry.
No, I'm kidding. It's under how.
Yeah.
So a water hole is an attraction. We could probably attract and pull mature bucks when they're cruising from 150, 200 yards away. It doesn't just narrow down movement. It doesn't slow them down for a shot. It does. It's not a mock scrape. A deer's not going to go 150, 200 yards out of the way for a mock scrape. Mm-hmm. No matter how much fancy scent you put on it or you're sold that it will, it's not. So big difference from a mock scrape. We're just trying to define movement in front of a tree stand.
So when we're putting a mock scrape in a food plot, this is a good time for them not just to eat, but to come over, check out this mock scrape, also get their picture taken, so we have inventory, but also give you a good opportunity for a shot at a mature buck.
So not every food plot do we have a bow stand on. In fact, very small percentage, 20%, 15%.
Sure.
Because you can't have a bow stand on a food plot if you're ever going to spook deer.
Right.
So, but at the same time, we hunt all of our plots.
Mm-hmm.
Or why have them? I've even heard of people that, and when I say heard of people, I'm not talking about anyone in particular. I've heard discussion, let's put it that way, where people will recommend that you have a food plot on your property that you never hunt. What a shame, terrible, dumb idea, because you're pulling deer potentially to a food plot that you can't hunt, and you're pulling deer away from your hunting stands then. And the ones that you pressure then around the outside, because you're in turn, the thought is, well, we're going to pressure all the other food plots, but not this one. And so that's going to hold deer. Well, in theory, then it's pulling deer away from your stand locations. Instead, I like to raise the bar. And to the deer, I want it to appear that every food plot's not being hunted, or why have them at all. So the easy cop-out way is to say, hey, let's just have a food plot we don't hunt, and we'll pressure the rest, and your land will still be good. No, it's going to be bad. But we still gun hunt all our food plots, or bow hunt, smaller percentage bow hunt. And I want to have a mock scrape on the side of most of our food plots so that we can actually have a camera there and give us an inventory of how that food plot's doing and what it's doing. And then just having one mock scrape at every stand location. So it doesn't matter if it's a blind or a stand, doesn't matter if it's a gun stand or bow stand. I want to have that so we can get a picture of what's going on in that area. But it's just going to define movement and narrow trails down from 3 or 4 trails in an area down to 1 in front of your tree stand. So that's the purpose of a mock scrape. More mock scrapes don't equal more bucks. At the same time, with a water hole, the more water holes you have, the lower it values each water hole. So, but difference.
Sure.
You could have a mock scrape. I don't like having 30 mock scrapes around a quarter-acre food plot because then the value of one of those is terrible. Which one do they hit? Why do they don't need to, you're not controlling time because they have 30 to hit. They'll hit one and move on, just like they would in natural settings. So hope that makes some sense.
Yeah.
You know, we have a list of steps we want to go through. And of course, hey, what time do we need to end?
I think we start at 2:21.
Okay. So the why, we just talked about that. I want to narrow down deer traffic in front of a tree stand. Don't make the mistake of thinking this is going to attract a deer 100 yards away just to hit your mock scrape. I know scent companies will tell you that. I want that deer right in front of the stand location. So we're putting our mock scrapes at stand location, 25 yards away for bow stand and whatever for gun, doesn't really matter. And then we're putting a camera on it. And also, when that buck comes in, you're going to take a shot, or doe, they're staring right at that mock scrape. So
gives you a good opportunity to move.
Oh, yeah. They're not looking at you in the tree. They're not noticing the camera.
You know, and with that new location over by Buck Corner, we're really eye level with those, with those deer when they come in at the water hole and or that mock scrape. So we had talked about that with Dylan too, that there's so much going on that either that buck or doe is doing when they come in, that as long as you're careful with what you're doing, they're not going to see you.
No, you get away with a lot more on a stand with a mock scrape. And when we combine the two, because we always have a mock scrape with a water hole, 10, 15 feet apart, then those deer come in, they're looking at the water hole or they're looking at the mock scrape.
They're busy.
Yeah, so they don't notice you or the camera. So that's a big part of it too. They don't notice the camera. I had a comment, the deer in my property come in, they don't notice the cameras. Well, you're hunting smaller, younger deer, and you don't have that older age structure mature box. That tells you a little bit about your hunting. Maybe you don't have a good older age structure in your area. Maybe you're not a good enough hunter to know the difference. But rest assured, there's a difference.
They
and
notice.
If they notice your camera, you're in trouble. So when someone makes a statement like that, it tells me more about themselves.
Sure.
You could start making, just as a detective, you can start saying, okay, they don't hunt older bucks. They might hunt in a fantasy land state where hunting pressure doesn't matter as much, which is very small percentage of the time. They don't have quality deer herd. They might have a lot of pressure in the area. They don't have an older age class of bucks in the area, and or they're not used to seeing older bucks to begin with, which means they're not a better hunter if they do have them in their area, and so you can kind of come to some conclusions. But those mock scrapes are, for a lot of reasons, for camera, making sure they don't detect the camera, making sure they don't detect you, narrowing down trails, giving you a stopping point in front of your stand, and then inventory too. So there's a lot of reasons. That's because we know that on our property, if you have a good setup on your property, less than 10%, usually less than 5% of the older age class of bucks, 3 years old or older, that come on your land, you should recognize. And a big part of that is our mock scrape program. How often do we see a buck that we don't recognize?
Not very often.
We had, the one that came in December.
Yeah, the pokey. Yeah, so there's.
And
I feel like
we called him pokey because he came late.
Was there just one, or did we have two this year? Regardless, it's not very many.
Out of like 45.
Right,
in Minnesota, we had one or two.
Yeah, and it was in very late season.
Yeah, so, that's another thing. People say, well, about 50% of your bucks should be ones you don't recognize. And that means you're doing a really bad job with your habitat management. It should be, and part of that recognition is having those mock scrapes, and that'll narrow things down a lot for you. Now, how? We talk about that with the hows right over here. I tried to draw it out, 6 to 8 foot vine or branch. Now, it might be in an area you don't have vines, but white oak branches make very good licking branches. Vertical, we want those hanging. We want them hanging because off to the side, a traditional branch, does, fawns, bucks don't all participate, just the bucks do. Typically, a doe won't go over to the side and hit that's off the ground. Fawns certainly don't. You did the numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a test.
Yeah, I still have them.
For 60 days, Jen looked at and analyzed from the end of September to end of November, and you went through I don't know how many different pictures.
It was so many, but it was interesting to see the cold front days versus the non, too. But it was
that was another thing too.
Yeah, it was incredible. Yeah, good points of data.
Well, what we found was that we watched a mock rub and a mock scrape in the same spot, and we had 210 hits on the mock scrape. About 1/3 does, 1/3 bucks, and those were unique hits. So if they came in a couple times, but it was the same deer, we didn't count them.
Right.
So Jen spent a lot of time. It was several hundred photos or more in video.
It was really interesting to go through, though.
And but about 1/3 bucks, 1/3 does, 1/3 fawns, and then the mock rub was hit 22 times.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of shavings. It looked pretty impressive.
It did.
But it was hit only 22 times, of course, out by bucks.
Yeah, seeing the tree, you would have thought it would have been hit a lot more. But
right.
Yeah, interesting.
And that's where you look at, this is very social. So we want it right over a deer trail. We want it within 25 yards of a bow stand, if it's bow stand. We want a camera tree nearby. We look at all three of those things when we set them up. We want that to be about waist high off the ground. You could use a hemlock branch. Could use a jack pine branch up north. Oak branch. All branches, limbs that bucks would naturally make a scrape under anyways. The reason for the vine is that's what I see in the woods when I go on client properties. It's the one scrape that I see on client properties that lasts the longest. So people say there's always a buck scrape right here, and it's under a bunch of vines or a vine. So you want one in a location. You don't want a buck to spread its scent out in different ones because it's only going to hit one typically when it's moving through. So if you have multiple scrapes, let's say they by chance were all active, they're only going to leave their scent in one spot. And so I want every deer that comes through there, all those different bucks, does, fawns, leaving their scent on that branch.
And to add a side note, we're still seeing on camera that all season long, doesn't matter what time of the year, there's bucks, does, and fawns that hit those mock scrapes. And we see them still right now.
Yeah, did you see it? It wasn't even a mock scrape. It was on the apple plot.
Yeah.
That buck came in. He was still holding as of April 6th or 5th.
Regardless, yeah.
Yeah, but he was hitting that scrape. He has one antler still on.
Just a little fella, but.
Yeah, he was coming in working it.
Yeah.
He was working it.
Yeah.
Means we got to get that video to Dylan now.
Yeah.
But anyways, waist high, 6 to 8 foot vine. We tie it to a branch. We tie it to paracord between two trees. You want to make sure there's at least a gap of 6 to 8 feet between the scrape and the tree next to it, so a buck can freely spin around. It's on a flat surface. We usually hollow or rake that out or kick it out with your foot. That's what I do more often, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I would say so.
You just kick it out, take a stick, and
yeah.
then we take that
Rough
stick
it
and
up.
throw it where something can't smell it.
Right.
But we touch the end of the vine.
When we're
don't.
when we're hanging it up, you do.
Yeah, and the
Yeah.
deer hit it within
Right away.
within a day or two.
What was
50 minutes or?
I think so. Yeah, it was less than an hour. That
Yeah.
one that we did. Was it last year?
That's on Instagram. We put a
Yeah, it was
video
pretty.
out
It was
showing
pretty
how
cool.
fast they hit it.
It was one of those when our Tacticam app went off. We were just like, oh, refresh, and finally we're like, look at.
Yeah, yeah, hit it.
Yeah,
right
it was
away.
really cool.
So we've had them hit within an hour. They aren't really too concerned about the scent. So when people use gloves for their trail cameras because they worry about the scent, it's kind of funny. Most of the time, when people are using gimmicks or gimmick ideas, they don't shoot very many big bucks because if they did and they had experience, they wouldn't be using these gimmicks. Just look at that online. The people that shoot mature bucks consistently, and I'm talking about for decades, not a couple years, that's not consistency. That could be just a nice stand location. But I'm talking about consistency over decades. You'll find guys don't fall for those decades or those gimmicks and fads, things like that. Experience with mock scrapes. We've been using them here for a while. Now, did you ever use mock scrapes?
I did. I think I had.
But traditional.
No. No, I think we used. I did use a vine, and I think the reason I did was because my dad Greg was like, "Hey, you should try this vine thing," and I know it's probably from him watching one of your videos, and so I put a few on the property, and they worked.
Yeah.
So it was. I know some people have used.
I remember you had water holes too.
Yeah, some people had used
Rope.
like jack pine branches. That's
Yep.
another good one.
And we make sure that those are 6 to 8 feet long because I've seen people hang them from a paracord and only a foot or 2 foot long, and the deer just don't hit them.
It's not natural.
No, not. It's just a stick hanging.
Yeah, it's not natural.
Suspiciously.
Yeah, I want to make them natural. But the nice thing about those vines is they last for so long.
They do.
So long.
Very long. And
we've reused some of ours. Like we'll move a stand location, and we'll take it with us.
excuse me.
Yeah, we'll take it with us.
Yeah, to another spot.
To another spot, and the nice thing about that, we try not to touch where the deer are putting all their unique scent on it, but all that scent's still there.
Right.
So we just rehang it up, and for them it's like
Yeah, so really, we don't like it to hang much from the paracord or the branch. Usually a foot of paracord at the most. You don't want to tie it directly to the branch because then that creates rigidity and it can snap easier. You want to freely hang back and forth. So, but a little bit about the history of mock scrapes, of me using them. The hanging scrape was not my idea. It was, I think it actually came through the Wenzel brothers, Gene and Barry Wenzel. I think they talked about it in the past, and then Tony LaPratte. But they used ropes. And so for a few years, I went to dozens of properties, especially a lot in Michigan, and I'd see these hanging ropes that weren't being used. And this doesn't make sense. Why would you do this? It looks funny. It's kind of weird. Yeah, I hate, if it's going to work really well, I'm going to try something, but I'm not one to experiment to the point where I don't think it's going to work, or I think, so-and-so's doing, I'll just try it. I don't want to waste my time. So time's too precious. So I've seen over 10,000 scrapes with ropes. I saw 500 rope scrapes on one property in northern Wisconsin on 200 acres. Not one was hit. So the hit rate is really low with something unnatural. Just a rope, the color, the size, the diameter, just hanging there is not natural. The smell. So I've even found where like vines, a grapevine, you put that in an area where there's no grapevine, that's been hit great. It's still natural, still woody. It's got a scent of something they're familiar with at some point. But rope, not.
Do you find a lot of people when they're using that rope, then that's where they're using those scents The rope's going to soak all those scents up and.
I don't know. I don't. They're using it because they saw someone online use it.
Sure.
And it's easier. They just use ropes instead of
fair.
vines or branches. They're not going to break. Well, it's pretty goofy.
Yeah.
It doesn't resemble anything naturally that they have in the woods. And so the hit rate is at least 50% lower than something natural in the same spot, same condition. And in some case, it's 0% of if something was used naturally in that location. So it's...
Well, if people don't have like grapevines like we do, or they're using like a
branches.
Like what kind of branches are like a jack
so it's
pine?
a jack pine, hemlock, oak, aspen. What I don't like about aspen, for example, even tag alder, they rub on it all the time. So anything a deer will rub on quite a bit is good. But they're also that wood is soft and it deteriorates quickly, like aspen or tag alder. Even something like a beech branch would be okay.
Sure.
I like vines because you can bend them. Jack pine is similar. Jack pines get scraped under and rubbed a lot up in northern areas. So hemlock too can be pretty decent.
Sure.
So that was kind of my history going back, starting about 20 years ago. I started seeing all this, and it was about 12 to 14 years ago. I said, we need to get something natural under those. So branches and the vine, because that's what I saw. My first scrapes I saw in a buck bedding area was back in 1986, and it was near Clarkston, Michigan. It was on a knoll. Went back there. It smelled like buck. It looked like buck. There were scrapes. I actually showed them to someone from church, Mr. Bigger, and he said those are buck scrapes. It was taught that was 1986,
Wow.
going back a ways.
Well,
So I thought, well, let's add a vine, and let's make it look more natural. We've bent trees. Hermit point. You bend a tree over, tie it to another tree, or bend two saplings together, hang it from there.
Yeah.
And usually when you're hanging them, you're about standing on the back of an ATV, tying it about head level, standing on the rail of your pickup, tying it about head level, and you're only a few inches, 6 inches off that line or branch, or two trees tied together.
Yeah, we did that at the beaver stand too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of different ways to do it. I saw this over and over again, and so then starting with those vines and hanging those vines down, that came from me, at least online. I mean, someone might have, I'm not saying someone else wasn't doing it in the country, but we didn't know about it. They didn't put it online. They didn't write about it. So that came from me. A lot of people copy that, but it's something, been doing it for a very long time. For that, because I've been to 1,600 client properties in 20 seasons now, I've seen a lot of mock scrapes, what works and what doesn't. So that kind of infuses into this. Now, do's and don'ts, if we're talking about mock scrapes, you can look at what we recommended, how to build them, what to build them with. Don't use rope. I always refer to, when someone's inexperienced with mock scrapes when they're using ropes. You know that someone doesn't have a lot of experience with them, doesn't have that total amount of experience when they're using ropes. That's more like Facebook recommendations,
Sure.
basically. But do's and don'ts. We could do the opposite of all that, and those would be some don'ts. But
Right.
what are a little bit, some of because we've built a lot out here.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, how long to build a mock scrape? It sounds like to build a mock scrape, how long does that take?
5 minutes.
At most?
Yeah. 5 minutes. I mean, the height's so important, because and you got to be mindful about the foliage on the trees.
That's a good point.
You know,
Because once those leaves drop, that branch lifts up.
right.
So something that was waist high turns into neck high pretty quick.
Right.
Now, if it's really established, they'll still keep using it. We've seen fawns stand up and use them.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, be mindful. Be mindful of that.
so a lot of times we're cutting the branches off, so it's just a stub.
Yeah, we are. We'll
And
pull
that
the leaves
stub will
off
still,
too.
Yeah. Yeah,
Especially if
true.
it's close to fall. We've done
And that
too.
stub will still live, so it's not like you're killing that branch that it's hanging on. That's a
Oh,
really
you
good
always
point.
want to make sure too that these deer have room to work it all the way around. Don't put it too close to something.
Right.
So make sure that they have room to work that
Yeah.
mock scrape all the way around.
Right. Yeah, that's a really good point. A lot of deer don't like to be confined. It's not like bears where you have them cornered into a bait pile and bait station, and they're going to feed and you get that perfect quartering shot. This is something you want them to be able to approach it from all sides. It seems natural to them. It's same with water holes too. You want them to be able to come in. Might be a hillside on one side, but you don't want it so drastic that they're not going to use it.
Yeah, and, we've used red cedar too. We've relocated red cedar.
Yes.
And
then hung a vine off.
Off of that. We've done that in a few food plots, and they've been rather successful. We just dig a hole, put some quickcrete in there, let Mother Nature do its work, and
oh yeah,
so it's a good idea that someone can try too.
Right. Any other do's and don'ts?
Not that I can think of.
Yeah.
Trying to. No, I mean the leaf
like
thing.
Off the wall. Do have a camera nearby.
Yeah.
Or a tree. So that's why I said when we pick a stand location, we're making sure all three are there. The stand location, the tree for a camera. Tree for a camera meaning a tree that's wider than the camera that can hide the camera. Maybe profile hidden on the camera.
Yeah, I was going to say, even being out.
And we want that camera. Sometimes we have cameras that are only 1.5 feet off the ground because deer don't look down either, just like they don't look up. So if you get it out of their sight line and it's hidden, that's what you need. And then with mock scrapes, they're a very valuable tool. A lot of people do them wrong. So someone will say, why is this not working? Well, it's not on a flat surface. It's off to the side of the deer trail. If it's off to the side of the deer trail and deer don't establish using it, then it's not going to be a viable mock scrape. You want that right on the trail. We've had mature bucks that actually move their head around it after they leave their scent on it. They're only aggressive for about, during the rut, maybe a total of 3 weeks out of the year. They're aggressive with them. And so that's why we've had some last for 5 years.
Yeah, and it's a good tool to add to your hunting portfolio. That is probably the most inexpensive tool to add to your property.
So I think Dylan and I added up. We used an average of 60 cents of paracord.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
In a given year.
Yeah, and then 5 minutes at most of your time, and
right. So, not much time, not much money to put up. Very powerful, and really enjoyable if you do it right. You have to follow steps. Don't be surprised if raccoons hit it, bears hit it, other critters.
Yeah.
Play around with it, and not a bad thing if they're doing that.
For sure.
We'll talk about Mailbag. And did you have anything in particular? Because I did. If you don't,
no. I mean, I do have a question, but I don't know what Billy means? Question mark.
It was a comment, and let me find it while you're thinking about your jokes that you.
I don't need to think
that you'll
about
bring
it.
up. You don't think you have one?
I think so.
I'm going to look at this because I'm trying to remember what Billy's question was. What's your joke?
What? Okay.
Is this one you can say?
What?
Is this one you can say?
This is one that I can say. At least I think so. If I can't say it, I guess Dylan will just edit it out. And I'll just say another one. But what do you call something that kills things that has two butts?
I don't know.
An assassin.
Oh. Where'd you hear that one from?
I read it in the dad joke book.
Yeah, that's pretty funny.
I thought it was kind of funny. I'm
one.
like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. Very practical. I like that.
Yeah, I like
but
that.
But funny. See what I did there?
Oh, boy, yes.
But.
Yes. Okay, Billy asked, he said that he had been trying to get a hold of us for a potential client. And he said that he had over 300 acres. He's been in touch with Jesse. He said Jesse's name, Jessica. But Jesse had talked to him, said she'd get back to him in April. It's April now. And he's been wanting to get on our schedule. Well, by April right now, my schedule's been full since around December. We add a couple clients here and there. I kind of get everything laid out. Okay, we're going to have 6 clients in each trip times 9 months or 10 months. And then I might add 2 to this one. One cancels in this one, so then or reschedules, and then I'll either fill that or not. And so you kind of play around with it at that time. Hey, we want to do this, so let's not add any to this one.
Yeah.
So we play with it a little bit there, but other than that, it's full. Jesse schedules for Kevin, Wes, Dylan, and myself. So she's just the master scheduler. This person said, well, someone was supposed to call him back. Well, that would be Jesse. And if it was Joe would be on top of it. And so Joe's schedule's primarily full. Mine is, Dylan is, Wes's was already done and gone. He only goes to clients December, January, February, March, and he's went to 18 clients this year. That's what he's doing for the year. That's it until next year. And then Kevin's still, we're filling a few holes for him, but Kevin's mostly scheduled too. So there are a few Kevin, and that will include some fly-ins. Joe might do one more fly-in, Kevin will, but Dylan's is completely booked, Wes and myself. So, I tried to explain that, but they basically said we need to do a better job. Well, we pay someone to do that. We get about 10,000 emails a year, and Jesse answers every one of them and gets back to everybody on that. So the fact that this person's talked to Jesse a few times, that's where they need to be, and that's a good thing. We put a lot of effort into, we schedule over 300 clients a year. That means we don't go to several hundred clients a year. We can't fit everybody in, unfortunately. And we have very specific ways of scheduling. We're very efficient with our scheduling. For example, my schedule is I go to one hotel in 8 days or 2. I have a day off in between, so I'll go to 4 clients, switch hotels, go to another one in the same state, eastern Ohio to southeast Ohio, central Michigan to southern Michigan, northern Michigan to southern Michigan. So that's how my schedule is created, and that's what we try to do with everybody, because we want everyone's clients within an hour and a half of a hotel room at most on average, and so everyone could be very efficient with a trip. That means if I get a client in western Ohio, I can't go if my schedule is already eastern Ohio.
Right.
So that's the way it works. So if you have any questions, you go through Jesse, which is info@whitetailehabitatsolutions.com. That'll get you to Jesse. You can mention her by name. And I hope Billy gets some help with that. But that's one thing that, as a company owner, I can look at and say, if someone says we're not getting back to them about potentially scheduling a client, I know we are. And now they might be, what Jesse might be trying to be polite and just saying, I think we might be able to have an opening early April, but I'm not sure. We'll have to wait and see. And then she's waiting for Kevin to open up a new date, or Joe or something.
Or for anybody to just say, yeah, I think I'll be available this day, or something potentially opens up in their schedule that is already full, know. So there has been times where, Jesse has called people and said, hey, this just happened and we could come see you tomorrow.
Right.
So that's kind of where we're at, I guess, with Jesse.
Right.
So, if she tells you she's going to call you in April, I don't have my watch. It's April 8th. Yeah. She's got a few more days left in April to try to get you in.
And I did think of that thing I was thinking about with mock scrapes.
Yeah.
With a mock scrape, what's really nice is deer will hit them 365. And so our cameras for hunting are in the same spots. We change our cameras this time of year because we want to see more open fields for turkey and developing bucks, because bucks start going to open fields as opposed to woods. Where our cameras are best in spring and summer is not where they're best during the fall, but sometime during the summer we switch those and migrate them back to over our mock scrapes for hunting. Now, one of the things about scrapes and mock scrapes is with that vertical hanging vine, don't be surprised if you don't see the actual scrape opened for 10 months to 11 months out of the year. They're leaving their scent on the branch, and that's it.
Yes.
So when you look at it, you'd say, oh, there's not much use. But it's because every deer that goes by leaves their scent on the hanging branch and vine, and they don't actually rip up the ground like you think a traditional scrape. Yeah. So one more thing to keep in mind with mock scrapes, and unless you have anything to add, Miss Jen, you already added your beautiful, incredible joke.
Thank you. The assassin.
So that was episode number 27 in the books. We hope you guys enjoy these. We're going to keep them going, and we're going to have Ray Howell coming up as a guest pretty soon.
Looking forward to having Ray. I think what he said yesterday was, get ready for some good laughs.
He's killed about everything there is to kill in the world. Yeah. Not just North America. So, and now he runs Camp Kicking Bear. Make sure Camp Kicking Bear, it is this Saturday before Father's Day. What is
June
that date?
15th.
And it starts at 10 a.m. It's here at our house, and we will have a habitat portion where we go out of the property twice. There's about a half-hour one, and then about a 2.5 to 3 hour one in the afternoon. We have lunch in between. Ray will speak.
Breakfast.
Bring your kids. Kids are free. We have a little bit of a breakfast, more like a continental type
I would say,
breakfast.
yeah.
And then we have our lunch, and it ends up a very full day. We have people staying around asking questions. We have a lot of question and answer time, both out on the property and the pole building.
Yeah, very rewarding day.
Space is limited. It's $200 a person, and every dime we raise, including our hunt raffle and raffling off bows, everything we do goes to Camp Kicking Bear. So we take zero out of it to even pay for any of our expenses. So it's something we believe in. Their mission is really just simply to get kids out in the outdoors and to get them to hunting. So
And get them and their family closer to the Lord.
yep. And they'll be throwing hatchets and shooting bows, playing tug of war,
BB guns,
marshmallow fights.
fights.
Yeah, all kinds of stuff
Yeah.
we get to do with the kids. We had 43 kids last year. So make sure to sign up for that. Again, space is limited, and we will have details about the hunt raffle coming up very soon. That's $100. We sell 100 tickets, and we've enjoyed 3 individuals coming out and hunting with us and becoming friends and
Yeah,
and
for
enjoying that process too. That's like an end of September hunt right around there. So we'll see you next week.